Hello, welcome to the post-match point on the Villa View in association with Purity. And it's fair to say that about maybe 20, 30 minutes ago, neither Neil or myself were looking forward to coming on and doing this show. But an absolute dream 9 minutes from Villa's substitutes has seen us coming on now, and we're going to enjoy ourselves now.
Absolutely. Full disclosure, I text Dan and I said, Dan, what's the shortest post-match point you guys have ever done? And at that stage, I was looking for an in and out job to try and just not spread any negativity that might have been coursing through the fan base, I think, at that time, or not to exacerbate it. But then, of course, we should have known, Dan, because no shots on target. And when you look to our bench and you see the likes of Keenan Davis, Trezeguet, Jacob Ramsey, it was probably just a given that we were going to have, 3 goals scored in the last 9 minutes once those three guys came on.
I mean, it's an Easter miracle, isn't it? There's many miracles have happened over the years on Easter, but nothing like a Villa substitute masterclass. Because I think we've scored 1 goal from a substitute all season, and that was El Ghazi's penalty against Wolves. Suddenly, 2 of them come on, and I've got to say, I know he didn't score, but I really thought it was Keenan Davis that changed the game, Neil.
That crossing, the crossing for the second goal was an absolute beaut. Absolute beaut. It really was. He got on a lot of the ball. Like, he's never going to be fleet of foot. He's never going to be, tricky with his feet or anything like that. He is a big man, and that's what his strengths are. But to get down to that byline and put that cross right into the back post, pinpoint cross, really, was fantastic. There was a couple of other times where, he trapped the ball well. Maybe he's getting better at trapping the ball, and this might sound silly to say of a professional footballer, and I'm not having a go at him, but when he traps the ball, it goes less far away from him, and that, I mean that as a compliment. It's not a dig at him or anything, but you could see that he's worked on that an awful lot, and he looked good. And I think, I don't know what it was, but I think having him in there to hold the ball up brought Traore into the game an awful lot as well, because when he came on, it looked like we were going to go to 4-4-2, and we kind of did, but it allowed Watkins to buzz around the field a small bit more and to get into other positions. And he gets into that back post position for his goal as well, off the back of some good work, there on the other side. The fact that he didn't need to be involved in the donkey work to kind of in the build-up play, he was able to ghost into the back post, and that's where he does his good work as well. So, yeah, credit where credit's due. Dean Smith has been panned for not making a lot of substitutions. He's been panned for not changing up the formation. He did both today. And look, let's call it as it is as well. Out of desperation, he did it, but it worked. And I think, let's talk about the third person as well. Jacob Ramsey came on. Jacob Ramsey was deceptively strong on the ball. I sent you a message as well saying that there was a couple of times that Loftus-Cheek or Lemina had got the ball on one side of the field and dribbled directly across the field, like in a straight line across the field, and we couldn't knock anybody off the ball or dispossess them. Ramsey came in and he showed a small bit of steel in that midfield, and it was just a good 9 minutes, as you said, from our 3 substitutes.
I mean, it was, to coin a Birmingham City phrase, it was 9 minutes in dream world, to be fair, because, as I say, the Easter was ruined. I wasn't looking forward to my dinner even tonight. It was all going down the toilet. You say there Smith has been panned for his use of subs, his change of system, but you did also allude to this. He had to change something because it was beyond turgid. Just nothing was working. I mean, it took us 70-odd minutes to have a shot on target, and that was a hopeful one from range. There was just nothing. I'm saying nothing going for us. We weren't doing anything. I think for 70 minutes, Dean Smith would have been disappointed that once again the main man's not on the pitch, and just nobody was having any accountability. No one was stepping up. I do think once you get on the pitch, there's only so much a manager can do at times, because we just looked a little bit lost. Midfield wasn't looking good. I felt it was too lightweight. I thought when Fulham broke, they're very mobile. I just felt they bypassed the midfield completely. But he's changed it up, and we did look better once we went to 4-4-2.
Absolutely. I think that, and I said it to you also as well, and I've said it before in certain aspects as well. When things aren't going well, we kind of do, we lack leadership at times. We do lack a strong leader. And look, I know Mings gave away that goal, but I suppose you have to really pat him on the back as well for how much of an effort he gave to not only win the ball back, not only be in a position he shouldn't have been, but his cross back to Trezeguet was very good as well. We've been missing crosses like that. We've been trying to put them through into the quote-unquote corridor of uncertainty an awful lot, but cutting them back to the penalty areas where statistically you have a better chance of getting somebody onto the ball. And whether Mings meant to do it or not, and you can only assume that he did, he had a perfect ball into Trezeguet there. Yes, look, his lapse of concentration for the goal
it was horrific. We can laugh about it now, but it was horrific.
It was awful. It was awful. It was a sliced pass. It was lax. It was, he could have just threw his right-footed it. Literally, the only place in the field he could have hit the ball that had danger was there. We often talk about XG. I'd imagine Mitrovic's XG from the position where when Tyrone Mings had the ball at his foot when he was just about to pass it was -1,000,000. And then the second it came off his foot, it went up to like 0.98, I'd say, at that stage. So it's just one of those breaks. But, credit where credit's due, but that he did get us back into the game with his assist. But obviously, look, that the mistake was poor, and if he is to progress, if he is to progress to be a leader within the team, those mistakes need to kind of be ironed out, I think, over time.
Yeah, I think that's his worst one. Obviously, he's had a couple of rickets through the season. There was a phase where it felt like I was coming on here every week and defending him, just wanting people to lay off him a little bit, and I was getting ready to come on and just say, look, it's horrific. I can't dress it up. It's so bad. And then he goes and shows what's great about him. He doesn't hide, does he? Someone in that situation, a defender, you could just hide for the rest of the game, really. Fulham didn't really attack after that point. You could just play it safe, not get involved, but he pushed himself further up the field. And as you say, it was him that ended up unlocking them. What do you make of Trez? Because I thought El Ghazi didn't have a good game, as many others didn't up until the point of which we scored. When Trezeguet came on, I was just expecting a little bit more of the same. But one thing he does do well is when he hasn't got time to think, he finishes.
Yeah. I do my best work when I don't have time to think about it either as well. So, I think that's very much a human trait, that you don't become a professional footballer at look, call it the highest level. The Premier League is probably the best league in the world. Whether we like to, you can pick facets of other leagues, but the Premier League is probably the hardest league to play in the world. So you don't kind of get to that level of play if you don't have something, inherently in you, or at least, some natural ability. And, sometimes natural ability just needs to shine through. You see it in golf an awful lot, that sometimes players overthink the game and then their game just goes to pot, and then the natural golfers just go through it as well. I think it's a sporting thing. Fair play to him. As I said, Trezeguet turns up on game week 29 onwards. He did it last year as well. And
back end of the season, Trez, we were talking about, weren't we, on WhatsApp? When back end of the season, Trez turns up, defences are in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And this could be it. Like, listen, if he does not fall for, 30 weeks of the year and then comes in and drives us onto Europe, like, he would be a cult hero if he does that, because he kept us up last year with his goals, so like, much and all is, we can suffer from recency bias and forget about, it's a what have you done for me lately thing. And I do agree with that there is there has to be an awful lot of that within the game, because the game passes you by otherwise. That he's come on, he scored 2 very, very good goals, and this might be something he might be, that might kick him on as well. And hopefully it does, because we desperately need some inspiration from somewhere, especially if Jack is going to be out for a couple of weeks again.
Yeah, he's certainly got a penchant for important, vital goals, Trezeguet. He likes to score at times when it seems all hope has gone. Let's go back to the start of the day then. You've just spoke about it. The murmurs earlier on in the day that Jack wasn't going to be playing. I think everyone's just sitting there with their fingers crossed in front of the computer or in front of the phone, just hoping that they see Grealish's name on the team sheet. Obviously, it hasn't happened. He's picked up a knock yesterday in training, a reoccurrence, we think, and he's declared himself unavailable for the game and pretty much left the training session on the spot by the sounds of things. Just first, I just want to talk about the reaction on social media. The Dean Smith getting called a liar, the club getting called that they're full of lies. I mean, what a load of rubbish. I don't know what people expect. At the time Dean Smith had his press conference now, Jack Grealish was going to play. He trained all week. He'd been in all the training videos, all the training images. Jack Grealish was going to play on Sunday. Now, the club don't have a press conference the day before a game, but in the training session, Jack Grealish has ended up getting injured and is ruled out of the game. It's as if people just expect the club to hold an emergency press conference and just disclose to Fulham Football Club that, yeah, our main player's not playing, lads. You've got a chance this weekend. some of the reactions were absolutely bizarre. I say I've never seen anything like it, but Twitter doesn't surprise me a lot of times with some of the overreactions you see. But I don't know what could the club have actually done. I honestly don't get it.
Yeah, I was one of the lucky few. I was completely oblivious until the team sheet came out, and I was I happened to be doing the show. My co-host Paddy, and I was going, wait a minute, where's Jack Grealish? The next thing Paddy goes, oh yeah, there was something going around on social media today that he was going to be out. Now, for literally, this is like a full moon or a blue moon type scenario where I turn off my phone and I forget to turn it back on again, and I have no connection with social media. And literally, that happened last night, and I just had no connection with social media today. I was painting a fence, to be honest with you. So I was completely oblivious to it. So I was literally, when I saw it, my jaw hit the floor. So, but I suppose maybe from that point of view, not having had the leaks, quote unquote leaks, which I think that's probably the piece I would be a bit more disappointed in, the fact that things aren't being kept under wraps within the club, and that needs to be rooted out. But I don't feel Dean Smith owes me an explanation for anything. I don't feel the club or Jack Grealish owe me an explanation for his injury. I don't feel the club owe me an explanation for any player's injury. I think the player is owed a lot more from the situation than that. I'm inconsequential as a fan with regards to knowing whether somebody is injured or not. I follow my team. If any of those players aren't with the team, I will still continue to follow Aston Villa. I'm not going to follow a player to another team. So with regards to the injuries, but this is me. I can completely understand people being frustrated and wanting to know what's the story. But I myself don't feel like any of this.
Everyone's frustrated because everyone wants him to play because Aston Villa are far better when Jack Grealish is on the pitch. But I just think it's so over the top to be. I don't know what people expect the club to do. Calling Dean Smith a liar and things like that. He needs to go lying to the fans. He's not lying to the fans. There's no way in the world that the club disclosed that information after the press conference. If he'd been unavailable before the press conference, they really think Dean Smith's going to come there and say, oh, he's been great to have him in training this week. 99.9% he's going to play. We've forgotten how good he is. It's great to have him back. He's given the whole place a lift. Do people really think that Dean Smith just comes out in a press conference and just turns into Pinocchio? What did that think happens? Honestly, I spent the hour before when the team was announced to kick off. It flew by. I was just laughing at Twitter, laughing at some of the replies I got to my tweet about the club holding an emergency press conference. Honestly, people must live in a different world to me. There's just sometimes just no realism on social media whatsoever.
Yeah. I think you summed it up, Dan. Really, as I say, I genuinely, Jack will be back when he's back. Jack will be here next year. Jack is more important to this club fit than he is to trot him out there with his leg hanging off just for the sake of appeasing people. For me, we got the job done, albeit under turgid circumstances for a lot of the game today. And I don't expect anything from Dean Smith. I expect Dean Smith to do what's best for the club and to play, not to do what's best for the fans, and to play games if he needs to. And look, if he was playing games yesterday or Friday, that's fine. I'm okay with it.
He wasn't.
But he wasn't. Yes, sorry. Yes, he wasn't.
Honestly, I was baffled for an hour. As I say, I sat there with a smile on my face, just wondering what on earth was going on. So we had the team. And I think few people, again, on social media, a lot of people have been calling for McGinn to play as a 10. Mm-hmm. And for the first maybe 15, 20 minutes, I thought it was good. I thought he was a bit more involved, probably in the first half. That's probably one of the few aspects of the performance I would say I enjoyed. And then by the end of the second half, he's playing as the deepest midfielder. And it was a good reminder today for everyone as well that football matches are 90-plus minutes long. Because, again, the overreactions when you're behind. Football match is 90 minutes. Anything can happen. And I'd be a liar if I said I thought I was going to be coming on here and talking about Villa winning 3-1. But there's probably some tweets from people who look a bit stupid now midway through the game, I would imagine.
The game kind of felt like up until realism kicked in and we scored those 3 goals. But the game kind of felt like, one of the simulations you go through in Football Manager, and you're flying high at the top of the league and there's nothing that can stop you. And then all of a sudden the team at the bottom beats you 1-0 and there's no rhyme or reason. The algorithm has just decided that it's going to have a glitch in your performance and it's just going to throw in a rick for your team. That's kind of what it
doesn't happen to me. I'm an astute football manager.
Either that or you're never at the top of the league, one or the other.
That's true.
But that's what it felt like. And then, you know what, by the end of the game, it actually felt like that the algorithm had glitched in our favor. The fact that we ended up winning 3-1, it was we could pretty much do 2 post-match points on it, because there was no talking points of positive note. There was a few talking points of positive note up until Fulham scored, and then after Fulham scored, we just kicked into gear. It was just such a strange game. But as you say, yeah, the game is 90 minutes. And, hopefully, like as I say, I can understand why fans probably thought that we weren't going to get back into it. And I kind of thought the same, because we hadn't done it all year. Only once against Chelsea, and that was
No.
a draw. And now
Yeah,
we've done it. Now we've
good
got
to
that
get that
monkey
monkey off the back. Great to get that monkey off the back.
Yeah. And also
Yeah.
winning was that the first time that we had conceded and gone on to win a game, bar the Liverpool game? Am I right in saying that?
You might be right there, but it's certainly the first time in a long time that we've come from behind. I've got a feeling this. I mean, this is off the top of my head, so it could be really wrong, and I'm missing something really obvious here. But I'm pretty sure Watford at home before COVID was the last time we went on and won a game from behind. That feels right. That feels right. That feels like it's right in my head. I'm sure someone can correct me in the live chat.
I'm going to take your word for it, Dan, because you can remember players from the 90s. You can remember what their squad number was. So
that's useless, though. That's no good for anyone. That's no good for anything. What I will say is my wife went out when we were 1-0 down with me slumped in the chair. She decided she was going to go for a walk. I was in a real bad mood. She was probably dreading coming back home. She's not come back home yet. She will not believe that Villa won 3-1 when she comes back. And now someone's actually knocking on the door, which I'm a bit confused about because I told her to take a key. So I'm just going to do nothing. I'm going to assume that someone at the door isn't important. So we'll leave it for now. I mean, I'm live on YouTube, so there's not much I can do about answering the door at this stage. Unfortunately, the dog and the rabbits aren't trained to go and open the door, so there's going to be absolutely nothing I can do about that. We'll just hope it's nothing important.
I'll sing if you want. I'll sing a song for 3 or 4 minutes if you want. You can go answer the door.
No. You can't. And I could go and look at the Ring doorbell live on air, but I'm going to assume it's nothing important and just leave it for now. What else should we talk about? What else happened in the game? Anything that can, obviously, I imagine there was plenty of things that concerned you for a long time. But is there anything long term that concerns you from the game?
Yeah, I still think the biggest thing that concerns me long term is the lack of leadership up the field. We give away so many silly fouls, like very silly fouls, like players gone past us and you leave a little hip in there or a leg in there. Sanson was guilty of it a couple of times. Douglas Luiz was guilty of it a couple of times. Bertrand Traore is just guilty of it so many times. But I think that's from frustration. I think that's because things aren't clicking up the field as well. But I would really like to see somebody to adopt that leadership mantle further up the field, to try and keep people together. Ollie Watkins, I think, could be that guy, but he's so disjointed from everybody just due to the position that he plays. He's quite far away from an awful lot of the rest of the midfielders, because of the fact the midfielders are up and down the field, especially in a 4-3-3. It would be something that would be nice, that if somebody could just gather players around them and become that almost Roy Keane type, Gareth Barry type in the middle of midfield that kind of glues things together from a mental point of view. That's probably the only thing that I think I've been. It's something that's been going on since pretty much the 1st of January, and it's not getting any better up there. But it's not getting any worse, but it's not getting any better either at the same time. I'd like to maybe see a little bit of a change up there too, with regards to just somebody being appointed almost a second captain up there to try and keep things going without Jack in the team, obviously. But one thing I did like was that we gave up the ghost in trying to get to the byline to cross the ball an awful lot. I'm not a fan of that with regards to the strikers and the forward players that we have trying to get on the end of the ball. I think it puts an awful lot of pressure on them, and it puts a lot of pressure on them to find space with the defenders so close to the goalkeeper. What I did see was that Cash and Target were crossing the balls from deep, and they were kind of more like almost Ahmed Al Mohammedi crosses is what I'm going to call them, because that's what he does all the time, and it just gives a chance for a striker or defender to get in behind a striker or a midfielder to get in behind the defenders, should I say. Little things like that in the first half I like from a tactical point of view. Saying that, our 2 goals that we got were from the byline, from Keenan Davis and from Tyrone Mings. So, but like, I think in the main, I think over the last couple of games, especially Sheffield United and against Spurs, getting to the byline and just floating crosses in there, expecting Ollie Watkins to get on them, doesn't really work. I think there needs to be a small bit of more of a game plan with crossing, and I think today we did come out with early crosses to try and get people in at the back post a bit more, which I liked, and hopefully we see that going forward.
Yeah, nice to get a couple of actually 3 goals from crosses in the end, wasn't it? Which is a variety of crosses there. One of them, obviously, from Davis was a bit of a hanger. I still think midfield's a massive problem. I think it's a bit early for Sanson. It's certainly early to be writing him off, but I'm not sure he's quite ready for the rough and tumble of the Premier League just yet. He looks neat and tidy, but he's just not quite there at the moment. I was concerned at one point that Luiz was going to get a red card. I thought he was a walk-in second yellow for a long period of the game. I was quite happy at one point when I saw Nakamba was about to come on, because I felt it was something that we perhaps needed in there against Fulham's mobile midfield, and I felt they were just bypassing our midfield completely. But long term, I think there's a problem with physicality in midfield. We're a small team generally, and I think we are missing that competitive midfielder in there at times. I think today was a game where you really needed a bit more of a physical presence, and I think Fulham aren't even the biggest and most physical side in the world, but I thought we struggled to live with them for a long period of the game. So I think in the summer, that's something I want to see rectified, because I think we're a bit too lightweight overall, I would say. I think we need a couple more physical players in there now.
Oh, big style. Yeah, it's my biggest thing that I'm calling for. More reinforcements in midfield. Being in a situation whereby, like I would have said up until maybe about 3 or 4 games ago, I would have said, yeah, we'll concentrate on 2 wide players, a striker, maybe 1 midfielder. I think we need 2, if not 3 midfielders. And I'm not saying they all need to be starters. I think that we need to have complements in midfield. And saying that, the emergence of Jacob Ramsey probably takes one of those guys off the table from a transfer point of view. But yeah, it's interesting that Fulham had Anguissa on the bench today and didn't see fit to use him. He would be somebody that a lot of people have spoken about with being that guy that Villa should look for. Villa were linked with a player from RC Lens as well, Cheick Doucouré.
Here he is, isn't he? We know and love.
I'm putting my money where my mouth is instead of just saying that I want to sign these players. But check him out. Villa have been linked with him a couple of times previously. I think he's only about 2021. Genuinely, all I see is Patrick Vieira when I look at him. So tell me if I'm insane or not. But he is huge, and he's up there. He's my 3 people I want Villa to sign this summer. But it's kind of fantasy stuff when you start looking at players from other leagues, because you just never know what way the transfer philosophy is going to go, if it's going to go in that direction, if they're going to take a chance again, maybe look outside the Premier League or look outside England, because obviously last year they brought in Matty Cash from the lower division, or from the division below, should I say. They brought in Ollie Watkins from the division below. They didn't really do too much fishing outside of the pond of British football. Previous year, obviously, they did with the Belgian recruitment drive. So you just never know what way it's going to go with recruitment now that Johan Lange is in there. And maybe that's why they stayed within the British pool, is because Lange came in and he didn't have time to implement.
No, I think that's valid. I think that's valid, yeah.
And I think that's probably why. But I'm really looking forward to this transfer window. And Europe is literally it's a field ripe to be sown at the moment, for ripe to be to reap the rewards of at the moment, because there's lots of good work going on there, and teams are strapped for cash with COVID at the moment. So why not go and plunder team players like Viktor Chankov from Dynamo Kiev is absolutely wonderful. Like, he's just literally wonderful. Whether he gets on in the Premier League, I don't know, or Cheick Doucouré or players like that, but all will be seen. And I spoke over the Premier League table.
Can we get it back up? Can we get the table back up, please, Adam? Yeah, there he is. There's Adam's back. It's not John Inslee, so we're not having the intro play mid-show. We've got Adam back. Yeah, I mean, that looks nice and healthy. for me now, I want to stay ahead of Arsenal and Leeds. That's what I want. I think if we finish ahead of them, we'll be somewhere around 8th or 9th, which I think I'll be pretty happy with, especially as we've come in off the back of a sticky period. Bit annoying that next week Liverpool have decided that now is the time to get some form back. So we've got them next week at Anfield, though it is Anfield generally where they've struggled. They have still been picking up wins away from home as they did last night, but it's good to be going back into that game with a win now, because I'd have feared for us if we hadn't taken anything again today. Go into Anfield, Jota back in the Liverpool midst and back on form. I think it would have been a struggle. At least now we're going into that game with a bit of confidence and hopefully a bit of momentum, which we haven't had for a few weeks.
I think the question needs to be asked: Are Liverpool a one-man team with Diego Jota?
Yeah,
I think that's a fair question. I think, yeah. Obviously tongue in cheek there, but he's sparkling form. He's top player in the Premier League at the moment. I would say. I would go so far
team as well, which is always good news. I put him in, took a risk, and it paid off.
I need to set an alarm to change my fantasy team. I haven't changed it since October. I usually pick my 11 and just see what happens.
I would have thought you'd have been right on fantasy football, making 15 transfers per week in your team, not messing around. I would have said you'd have been right on the FPL.
No, I think it's the fact that 1,000 other players can have the exact same team as you. And I think I got done dirty once, whereby I was in second and the guy who was in first just kept on picking the exact same team as me. Every weekend, there was just no way to kind of circumvent him, other than captain changes and so on. So the draft fantasy Premier League is actually quite
that's good. I'd like to get more. I didn't do that this year. I'd like to do that because I think that's got the scope to be more interesting. To be fair, you haven't got the time for fantasy football because you're too busy doing your general scouting work for Aston Villa football. Saying that you want to get in the transfer window. But Neil, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank God we've actually come on and had a happy chat, because, as I say, at one point it was looking like it was going to be a disaster class from Villa, and then horrible coming on and having to try and pick out positives and try and defend people, because I think it would have been really, really hard to do. Quick word for our sponsors, Purity Ale, who continue to sponsor us and do continue to give us a 10% code as well. If you use the code #VillaView, you'll get 10% off all their beer and Villa goodies. I've managed to find a can in the back of the cupboard that I didn't know I had. So that's good. I'll be celebrating with that later. Lovely stuff. And it's got the Villa badge on the front. So it's just brilliant. So go on the Purity store. You get Villa glasses, Villa kegs, Villa cans, other stuff as well. Go and have a look and treat yourself, because Villa have got 3 points. There'll be a match preview from the Villa View back in the week at some point. Neil will be doing his For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast as well. So if you only watch Neil on the Villa View, make sure you're watching him on his own podcast as well, because it's very, very good. And Neil's a very, very good guy to have on this show. He's honed his craft For the Love of Paul McGrath. So we get him on here as well because we enjoy talking to him. Also got post-match point as well next week, a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff, which is an absolute scene. I can't remember the last time there was one of them. Feels weird that we play Liverpool and they give us a 3 p.m. kickoff. I bet Liverpool haven't played at 3 p.m. for a year either. That's really, really weird. So there'll be a post-match point for that as well. Have a good rest of the Easter break. Thank you very much for watching. Up the Villa.